Welcome to Roguecast. I'm Sheen, and today I'll be talking about the Intel 10th generation i9-10850K processor. This is an interesting processor from Intel's 10th generation lineup, given that it wasn't initially announced along with other CPUs such as the 10900K. Now, this chip presents a really interesting opportunity for enthusiasts interested in the 10th generation i9 series. The departure from the typical naming convention appears to imply that it's almost a 10900K. Like the 10900K, this chip features 10 cores and 20 threads, the only difference being a base clock that is 100 MHz lower than the 10900K. This difference really only manifests itself at the highest turbo boost frequencies, particularly when attempting all-core overclocks past 5 GHz. The truth is, gains at those levels are more about the entertainment value than any meaningful performance gains in both gaming and productivity workloads. So in that line of logic, this chip is targeted at enthusiasts who want the real-world high-end performance gaming and productivity capabilities of the 10900K, but don't need the CPU to be able to hit super high turbo clocks of 5.2 or 5.3 GHz. Now, I pushed the limits of the CPU with Intel's own XTU program to see how high it could overclock and just how much of a performance gap there was between this and a higher bin 10900K. With all power limits lifted on my MSI Z490 Unify Mini ITX board and paired with a fairly aggressive fan curve on an AIO cooler, I managed to hit 5.1 GHz on all cores at a voltage of about 1.2 volts. 5.1 GHz on all cores is actually something that not all 10900Ks are capable of, although there certainly are 10900Ks that can hit 5.2 GHz all core, and the best even 5.3 GHz. Try as I might, I could not get this chip to push into that 5.2 GHz territory, and that right there is the 100 MHz difference based on Intel specs. Keep in mind that each chip will vary, so you may be able to get a little better, or you might end up with a little worse performance when overclocking. Considering that at that level, at most, there's a 5% performance gap between this and the higher priced 10900K, I think this chip presents a fantastic value for those that were interested in a 10-core i9 CPU to pair along with their highest end gaming GPUs. The last thing I'll mention is that to get all the performance out of this CPU, a minimum level of cooling for this chip is a big tower air cooler, such as Noctua's D15, or a 240mm all-in-one liquid cooler, along with good fans. Again, I'm Sheen, and thank you for following along on my impressions of the Intel Core i9-10850K processor. Be sure to check out other real user experience reviews right here on Roguecast.